son. You're a politician.
No, we're ready. Here he comes!
This telling moment from the candidate probably sounded a little less ominous half a century ago when the movie premiered. Nevertheless, it's appropriate that it is Melvyn Douglas, playing former Governor of California John J. McKay, who breaks this sad fact to his son, Bill McKay, Robert Redford, on the night of his election to the U.S. Senate. We see that he doesn't seem particularly pleased about this development. At best, he remains ambivalent about his victory and what it might mean. By this point, Bill McKay understands too well that the price to be paid for winning is the suspension of the meaningful political debate that he had so desired when he first threw his hat into the ring. He is now Senator McKay. From here on, his life will be about remaining in office and exercising power and raising money from wealthy Democratic Party patrons. Only a few moments after his father pronounces him a politician, McKay famously asks his campaign manager, Marvin Lucas, played by Peter Boyle, in the most quoted line from the movie.
Marvin, what do we do now?
Wait a minute.
Whether McKay intends this query literally or figuratively or just procedurally, his question was unthinkable earlier in the film. When we first meet him, he is a leader who seems to understand ordinary people and their problems, and even the problems of representation generally, after a comedian insults him prior to his speech.
I guess it is pretty funny. In fact, when you think about it, the whole idea of two guys making decisions for 20 million people, that's pretty funny. But still, you can't laugh too much.
Of course, it is still true today, except now doubly so. 2 representatives for 40 million Californians. This scene is also significant because only seconds after getting up to speak, Bill McKay overhears a local television director say, "Cut, we got what we need." They really don't care what he's saying, only that they have a few seconds of footage for the local news. Early on, McKay admits to Marvin Lucas that he has never voted previously. It becomes clear that he did not always approve of his father's centrist way of governing.
I watched my dad for 20 years.
That was no good, huh?
Yeah, it was good for him. He loved it. He got to be Governor John J. McKay.
Well, I'm not
What good it did for anybody else, though, I don't know.
Eventually, Bill McKay opted out of the process entirely, doing things like supporting environmental causes and providing legal aid for the poor on his own time.
I just worked straight through the weekend, 20 straight hours. And I loved every minute of it. So what do I need what you're offering? I'm happy.
You're happy.
Yeah.
Clams are happy. What did you accomplish?
Would you like a list?
You saved some trees.
Yeah.
You got a clinic open.
That's no good?
Does that make you feel good?
Not bad.
Meanwhile, Jarmon sits on his committees and carves up the land, the oil, and the taxes.
An opinionated idealist, McKay is very much his own man in the beginning. So what happened to him? How is he transformed into the Bill McKay of the final scene, asking, "What do we do now?" The movie serves as a critique of the nature of the political process itself. Little by little, inch by inch, McKay is co-opted. Originally, he was given a guarantee by Marvin Lucas, a matchbook inscribed with the words, "You lose," written on the inside. Knowing he stood no chance against his opponent, the Republican incumbent Crocker Jarmon, McKay felt free to speak his mind. This was sufficient to get him launched in the Democratic primary, but it was nowhere near enough to win the election. In fact, it only attracted a third of the California electorate to his campaign. Something needed to be done to change things. As a result, McKay and Marvin Lucas engage in a rather spirited conversation inside a bathroom stall.
Why? I've got 47% of the primary field.
Yeah, but if you look at the projection on the printout, it adds up to 32% in the election.
Right, so?
So if those figures hold until November, it'll be Jarmon 68, McKay 32.
I thought I was supposed to lose.
Well, now I'm telling you you'll be wiped out.
That sounds like a death sentence.
No. All that means is that you're just reaching the people who agree with you already. Now we have to go after the rest.
Yeah? And what does that mean?
Well, it means more in terms of TV, for one thing.
Like what? I mean, I already agreed to the...
Get your ass out of here!
Marvin Lucas's job is to broaden Bill McKay's appeal. The incumbent, Crocker Jarmon, played by Don Porter, after 18 years in the Senate, speaks in cliches and predictable jokes that make him seem sincere and centrist and reasonable, a sort of grandfatherly figure.
My mom and dad went through the 1930s without welfare, without poverty programs. Why, none of us kids even had a social worker. How did we do it? Well, ladies, excuse me, but we worked our butts off.
At a certain point, to try to make up ground, Marvin Lucas brings in Howard Klein, played by Garfield, an opinionated political consultant who is employed to make TV commercials for their campaign. Klein can be crude.
You can take a look at the crock and think maybe you can't get it up anymore.
Yet he has an instinctual feeling for what sells, and he somehow believes that Bill McKay has what it takes.
Okay. And we can fire the Board of Regents. How can a senator fire the Board of Regents? It's meaningless.
Sounds good.
It sounds good, regardless of whether it means much, could well have been said by a political consultant today like Frank Luntz, who famously showed that renaming things, like referring to the estate tax as the death tax, could have significant political consequences. Klein understands the advantages of style over substance. Ironically, he only loses his patience with Bill McKay, not when McKay says or does things that display political naivete, but rather when McKay starts getting into actual issues, as he does at the tail end of the debate with Crocker Jarmon. Klein does not want him mentioning topics like healthcare, which divide the American electorate. He is furious following the debate.
He probably doesn't see it that way.
Oh, no. Well, he goddamn will when I get through with him. Howard, don't say a word.
Early in the campaign, the experts seek to feed McKay cogent answers to the journalists' most frequently asked questions. On abortion, for example, they are unsatisfied by McKay's answer.
Wait a minute, Bill. You can't put it that way.
That's what I think.
Well, it's not going to be understood without a hell of a long explanation. So, how about this for the time being? Just say it's worth studying.
Where to stand up to the communists is also discussed.
You say you wouldn't draw the line in Vietnam. Well, then just where do you propose to stand up against the communists? On the beaches in Santa Monica?
Eventually, one of the writers comes up with a suitable answer.
McKay says he will not let them land on the beaches of Santa Monica because the parking problem is bad enough already.
Okay, that's it.
Thank God for small favors.
Okay, that's
All
it.
right.
It never hurts to toss one off.
Marvin Lucas knows that voters like and remember hilarious moments on the campaign trail. In essence, the advisors make this common 1970s question about communism irrelevant by making a joke of the very idea behind the question, that the communists posed a physical threat to the United States. When one of his advisors learns of a natural disaster that might be a good photo op, the man recommends abandoning their original plans for the day.
Gotta get off. This is when they change the plan.
And welcome to Los Angeles.
Get off? What about the group in San Diego? Never mind that. We got a fire in Malibu. It's perfect.
From discussing issues, the campaign encourages McKay instead to focus on more superficial things, like shooting a few hoops with the kids. As McKay's popularity increases, the movie also touches on the sordid side of political campaigns, with a strange man confronting McKay while he is relieving himself at a public urinal.
You know, this is a heaven-sent opportunity. There's something I've been meaning to tell you, McKay. You were shit. And what's more, you know you're shit. And your father was shit before you.
Hey, come on, mister. What's going on?
In fact, you come from a long line of total
Now,
shit.
hold on!
Soon after, he is physically attacked as well.
Hey, Bill McKay. Hello, how are you? Hey, have a drink. Have a hot dog.
Oh, thank you.
Despite these worrying encounters, Marvin Lucas convinces McKay to keep his message simple and light, and McKay starts creeping up in the polls. Eventually, the commentator, Howard K. Smith, notices the changes in McKay's style of campaigning and goes after him as a candidate who's being managed and packaged, especially for California voters, as though he were something like a new detergent. What the commentary fails to mention, however, is that the methodology is working. Eventually, Crocker Jarmon, afraid of being caught by McKay, decides to debate him. McKay is disappointed to learn, however, that what makes the most difference is not the questions being asked of him and Jarmon, so much as the blocking for the television cameras. McKay begins to communicate primarily in platitudes.
I think the time has come when the American people realize that we're in this together, and that we sink or swim together. And I say to you, maybe, just maybe, that that's the way it should be. A test of our courage, of our compassion, our faith in ourselves, and our faith in our country.
McKay is so managed and packaged that he is unrecognizable, perhaps even to himself. He has become another politician, appealing to the widest audience and trying not to alienate voters. The campaign has not killed McKay's idealism outright so much as it has worn it down little by little. From the outset, the campaign understands, even if McKay takes a little longer, that the most effective way to defeat Crocker Jarmon is to become a similar but more virile and reasonable version of the senator by repositioning himself to the political center. In the end, there's not much difference between the two men.
The United States of America is the most successful country in the history of mankind.
To have a chance against Jarmon, McKay has been forced to compromise so many of his own values that he's become a different man. The tragedy here is that originally he had desired to be his own man, but then everything became about survival and necessity. For example, McKay is forced to ask his father, the former governor, to issue a statement saying that he'd been staying out of the campaign at his son's behest, though we know the real reason. John J. McKay clearly did not believe his son had a chance against Senator Crocker Jarmon. It is only when things begin to look up and it appears that Bill McKay may make it a close race that his father finally joins the campaign.
I wonder if anybody understood what I was trying to do.
Don't worry, son, it won't make any difference.
All right, come here. All right.
Throughout the film, we have watched Bill McKay become more and more dependent on his team.
Give him our answers no matter what the questions are.
Hey, tie. Come on, let's change ties.
Why? Never mind.
By the time of the infamous hotel room query, what do we do now? It stands to reason. The narrative of Bill McKay's life is not of his own making anymore. What he believes is now largely at the mercy of experts and focus groups. He can say what he wants, but only when it is deemed appropriate.
Well, we'll go over it, but you can't say too much on TV.
I thought the point was to say what I wanted.
Well, it is, but in the right way and at the right time.
We never discussed a right time.
We never had to, because you know it.
Don't tell
This
me what I
exchange
know.
matters because Marvin Lucas then offers his resignation to Bill McKay.
And if you don't feel I'm doing my job, well, then you just tell me and I'll shove off. Anytime.
It's as if he were saying, "Where would you be without me?" Probably on the wrong end of a landslide fourth term for Senator Crocker Jarmon. By carefully managing the message of McKay's campaign, Marvin Lucas has created the circumstances for a potential victory, but this is mostly lost on McKay.
Yeah, tell me, bud, what does it feel like to run a campaign in this state these days?
I wouldn't know.
This comment to his father regarding the campaign is instructive. The division of labor in the campaign is so complete that he feels more like a piece of a machine, and perhaps not even the most important piece. When he first announces for senator, his attitude's really different.
Platform.
Bill, would you mind moving over there with your office staff?
No. Sorry, any other questions?
Why won't you move over there with your staff?
They're not responsible for me.
The transformation or maturation of Bill McKay is truly shocking. By the end, he is so programmed and stage managed that he appears as a completely different person. At the 45th Academy Awards ceremony, Jeremy Lerner's script for this film was judged Best Original Screenplay. More than being about just a single candidate, the film is really a primer on how American campaigns inevitably compromise and homogenize their candidates. Many critics have remarked how well the candidate has held up in its first 50 years. It is rare that a film about politics at a particular point in time would age so well. It is a truly remarkable film, prescient at certain points. There are a few missteps in director Michael Ritchie's film. As a viewer, the only question I was left with was how well it will hold up over the next 50. Of course, that could be the wrong question. The real question may be why things failed to evolve much in the succeeding 50 years. Could it be that the American system is so flawed that it simply cannot help doing what it does, eternally forcing candidates to compromise their beliefs and disguise their true sympathies while campaigning for high office in order to bring more voters to their side? In this case, the salient question may be, will American campaigns ever evolve much beyond the world of the candidate? Thanks for taking the time to watch my take on this provocative 1972 film.